guys, welcome. My name is Amanda. For those of you that are new to the channel, for those of you who've been here before, welcome back again, and for friends and family, g'day. So I went to the market early yesterday, got myself a tray of the fresh season beautiful mangoes. These are R2E2s, which are a beautiful big mango. They're not as nice as a Bowen, but they're pretty good. So I'm going to be water bathing these guys and putting them into some jars, something I've said I wanted to do for many weeks, and so finally had the opportunity to pick them up at a reasonable price. Okay, so I will be doing that today, as well as doing them in a slightly different technique using the water bath and putting them into a light syrup prior to going into my jar. So if that's something that interests you, stay here and watch that. If you want a bit of a giggle, I'm going to be going and doing a busting of a myth as far as how to cut mangoes. A hack, simple hack. And it kind of works halfway, but it kind of doesn't. But what does work is a different method that I use when it comes to peeling the mangoes. And so I'll show you that method, because that just makes it a lot easier when you're doing large quantities of mangoes. And it's just something that we've been doing for ages. And I have seen it pop up every now and then recently. So, you know, why not? Let's just go ahead and peel some mangoes and prep them and get them ready for the shelves. And then this will be the first box of what I hope will be many over the next few months as mango season increases here. Our trees are not producing, you know, because it's been so dry over the winter period, unfortunately, and we haven't had a low enough chill factor. Even though it's pretty cold, it wasn't low enough. And so unfortunately our mango trees have not produced yet, but they are just coming out of their dormant period, so they may be late producers this year for us. You know, we are a little bit different with our seasons compared to our northern counterparts. So I will be going through and showing you a much better technique to getting the skins off our mangoes than cutting them, you know, and wasting all of that, which is not going to get wasted, because anybody that lives in Queensland or knows mangoes knows that they're just going to get eaten. And I'm not going to do it now because I'm just going to make a big mess. They just get put in the freezer and get eaten or dehydrated later on. Rightio, let's get on to the prepping part of the day. So some of you may already have seen this little technique in the past, and it scares me because I've done one already, but I'm going to give it a go again. All right, so this is a reasonably firm mango, okay, perfect for water bathing, which is what I'm going to be doing. Instead of holding it like a heart, which is what the cardiac nurse in me wants to do, and hold it like a heart and cut down each cheek away from the seed in the center, I'm going to turn it this way, and I'm going to cut it across the center. I've seen this technique done a bunch of times in every kind of social media platform. They all swear by it, and they all go giddy giddy, it's really good, and you know, woohoo, lordy, this works. But oh god, it's not easy. Rightio. So I have cut around the diameter of my mango instead of down its sides, and now it's a matter of gripping and twisting. Okay, all right. So gripping and twisting our mango. I hate it. And tearing it off the seed inside. I hate it already. Oh. But you know, it works for the bottom. That's great. It doesn't do much for the top, because you want to tell me how to get that seed out of there now? Because I've tried everything. Okay, that just hurt my wrist. From pliers to cloths to, I'm not doing it with my teeth as I've seen people doing it. I've tried stabbing it. I'm not going to. I've tried every way possible to try to get this slippery little sucker out of the center of this. And I don't have the strength to, not to mention, it is incredibly messy doing this. And I thought we were going to do a no mess day. And we are going to do a no mess day when I get past. Okay, myth number 1, can't get that seed out. It's horrible. Let's move on. Okay, now that I have just inflamed both of the carpal tunnels in my wrists once again, that was not smart. So the first part is always the worst part and the messiest part, but it is cutting all the cheeks and the flesh off our mangoes. So I have to go and get another tray. Cutting mangoes can be notoriously messy. When we were growing up, it was a job that was reserved for outside or in a bathtub. We had a bathtub in the middle of the paddock that was our water trough for the horse, but it doubled as a bath for the children that were dealing with mangoes throughout the year, because we had huge mango trees growing up. So dealing with mangoes has always just been the thing. All right, but having to buy mangoes, not so much of a thing. Now, the technique that I need, unfortunately, I need to cut my mangoes into smaller pieces. So this is the cheek of the mango, which is the easiest part to remove and what most people would remove. Then you've got your seed, and you just need to follow your seed around very simply, feeling for where that seed is, and then cutting off the remainder of your fruit, okay, because every bit counts. This part should be pretty much no mess. That's the idea. There's my glass. So if you have seen previous ways to peel mangoes, you can do it with a knife or a spoon, and you can scoop out the flesh if you want to do it that way. It still leaves a lot of flesh on the skin and a lot of waste, okay, because you can never get really close. You can use a vegetable peeler if you're doing it really early, but I mean, there's still a lot of mango left on that peel, all right, so it's a bit of a waste. So this technique works a lot better. You simply need a jar, a glass, a jar, whatever you're going to use. I'm just going to use a jar and just tip it out each time I get to the end of it. The idea is to simply, I'll do it with the left, hook it on to the edge of the jar and push down, following the shape of your fruit. And as you push it down, you're going to get left with the skin, but your fruit's all in your jar. And you just tip it back out again. So it keeps things a lot cleaner, and you're not making anywhere near as much mess. Works really well on under-ripened mango. The more ripe the mango, the more juice it's going to produce, but most of that's going to fall into your glass, which is good. And you don't end up with a lot left over. So it's a fast technique when doing large amounts of mangoes. And that's it. Done. Didn't take long. Got 2 huge bowls. Okay, so I'm left with all of my beautiful bowls of mango to go into my jars. I just want to slice them up, and I'm going to do it in the bowl. I don't want to make any more mess. I don't want to use cutting boards or anything like that. I'm going to do this as simple as possible because it doesn't need to be uniform. I don't care if they're large pieces, small pieces. I've got 2 bowls. One lot will most likely be going into the quart jars or pint jars. I might do pint. Yeah, I'll do pint first, and then I'll do half pints and then see what I've got left. So just with my really, really sharp knife, I'm just literally going to run through my bowls, and that will just cut up all of the pieces. Another way, because this is soft enough, just like the eggs can be done through the baking wire mesh cooler, you know what I mean, the cooling rack. This guy. It's another way. If you want to put that on top of a big bowl, and if you don't mind getting your hands a little squishy, you can just sit there and you can just squeeze them all the way through just like so, and end up with lots and lots of fine pulped mango in the bottom, all cubed perfectly, which I'll show you in a moment. It's a really good way to do slightly under-ripened mangoes. These are perfectly ripened, so they don't need particularly to be done with the mesh, but it is a really quick technique if you want to do really fine mango. All right, give it a bit of a bang. Sorry, it's a bit loud. But you end up with perfectly diced up pieces of mango. I'm just going to chop it with the knife. I won't let any of those little diced ones go to waste. I'll use them into the smaller half pint jars. Alrighty, back to this. Now on the stove, I've got a light syrup starting to come up to temperature. So it is just, for every 4 cups of water, there is 1 cup of sugar. And that is on the stove at the moment, just heating up until the sugar is well dissolved. And then all of this mango is going to get transferred into the hot syrup. Why am I doing that? Because I'm doing a hot pack technique into the jars afterwards, and it requires only a shorter period of time for water bathing. All right, hot syrup just come off the stove. It is scalding, so be careful with it because it is syrup, so it's a hot temperature. And I'm just going to put my mango gently into the syrup. Oh, I should have used the next size up. All right, I will add as much until it becomes unsafe. I'll add the rest later. Okay, so I'm just warming through the mango. So debubbling, I'm just going to leave the funnel on top. Just helps just stop it all overflowing out of the jars. Really good tip is to put your bubble to your funnel into your jar as you're debubbling, especially very sticky substances such as a sugar syrup. So I'm just going to go through, and without macerating the fruit too much, give it a good stir through. So I'm just going to have to take out a little bit from this one. Rightio, because they're so sticky, I'm going to use a cloth that's been dipped into warm water just to remove any sugar from around the rim. Don't want any of these to fail, that's for sure, after going to all the effort of preparing them. And you don't want to waste the fruit either. At least it's in a water bath canner. If anything goes wrong, you can intervene, unlike a pressure canner. If something goes wrong, it's happening inside and there's not a lot you can do about it. But they don't need to be pressure canned. Okay, so new tops, lids, flats, whatever you want to call them, for each of these. Now they're all clean. I just realised I had wide mouths as well, so so that was a little bit of fun, getting all of the mangoes done at the water bathing of the jars. This one here is a pint. That was water bath for 15 minutes. You see, lovely and golden still. And our big quart jars, which my wrist is still very sore. So this is a quart, and it was done for 20 minutes. That was a hot pack technique, so it reduced the amount of time that I needed to do the water bathing. They're done in a light syrup, so everything just needs to be cleaned down really well to make sure there's no syrup on the outside or any of the mango juice as well. I've still got 2 beautiful big jars in the refrigerator to enjoy fresh. So I hope you enjoyed that. A little bit of fun and trying to attempt the hack, which please don't do it. It doesn't work. And if it does, like on really underripened mangoes, that might be useful, but on ripe mangoes, it's a definite no, don't do it. I can't see any purpose of doing it other than making a lot more mess than is needed. Simply cutting them the normal way and then removing the skins using a jar or a glass is far easier. Alrighty, moving on to the next job for the day, which is tidying up the last of the tallow, the last stages. So that'll be the next video. All right, thanks for joining me. Bye now.